Dr. Dan Caliendo spent the better part of every week at HCA Wesley Medical Center in Wichita, Kansas, where he was in charge of the emergency room. But as often as he could get away, he'd be on his 100-acre farm doing chores. He was there on the afternoon of July 15th, 1992, when his wife of 27 years, Mary Jo, caught up with him.
I pulled up beside him to ask him what he was doing, and he said he was getting ready to take a bale of hay down to a friend of ours.
You want to go?
I said, I'll go with you if you wait for me. It was hot that day, and I wanted to go home and change clothes. Dan knew he didn't have the right equipment to move the bale, but he thought he could do it with the tractor bucket. He enjoyed working around the farm. He could come home from a hard day's work and get out on his tractor and relax. When I was coming back, he was starting to raise the tractor bucket up. He had to lift it high enough to be able to see under it. I have heard they weigh anywhere from 900 to 1,200 pounds. But these bales were really wet, which made them twice as heavy. It happened so fast. I don't think I realized how bad it was until I got up to him. He was having trouble talking, and I kept saying, I'm sorry, but I can't understand what you're saying. And he kept trying, and on about the 5th try, I finally caught what it was, and he was telling me he wanted me to kiss him goodbye. He thought he had punctured his aorta, and he just knew he was bleeding to death. I didn't want him to die alone. I didn't know, should I run for help or should I stay there with him? But I could tell what he was wanting me to do.
A44, Squad 48, a farming accident at the Caliendo residence. Unknown if it is the doctor.
Hay bell on top of a subject, 1501.
The nearest medic was more than 10 miles away, but Jim Schmidt, an off-duty paramedic and friend of the Caliendos, happened to be driving near the farm.
My biggest fear was the fact that it was Dr. C, as we call him. He's a doctor with compassion, and he cares for his patients and for the others in the emergencies medical service loop. He was one of those kind of people who come along, I guess, once in a million years. I was very afraid because I've heard of accidents like this before, and unfortunately, you usually get there to have a dead body.
I was afraid he might have died while I was gone for help. My heart was pounding so hard that it felt like it was up in my throat. But he was still hanging on. He could not sit up by himself. He said, well, the first 25 years was great. And I said, well, the next 25 years is going to be good, too.
From 50 feet away, you could see the death grip that he had on the steering wheel. I don't think that he really recognized who I was.
Tell me where you're hurt.
He said, I've severed my spinal cord. That was the coldest, just heart-wrenching feeling I've ever had. I looked under his shirt. The spinal column was broken and separated totally off to one side. In 15 years of being a paramedic, I've never seen anything like that. I realized that if this is how bad the back is, broken ribs could have punctured any number of vital organs inside.
EP1 Sheriff, advise 801, we need life watch launched immediately.
When we continue,
He was starting to have some difficulty in breathing. It ran through my mind that we've got a person that's going into deep, irreversible shock.
Dr. Dan Caliendo was working on his farm when a bale of hay he was moving, weighing more than a half a ton, broke loose, crushing him under its enormous weight. Off-duty paramedic and friend Jim Schmidt did what little he could for Dan until rescue units could arrive.
John, I need you to take Miss Caliendo's place here. Get some support here, will you?
He was in a lot of pain. It surprised me that he was conscious at all, knowing how much these hay bales weigh.
Okay, does this hurt where I'm pushing? Oh, okay, I'll try.
At the time, I was thinking, I wish it was me. I think I could handle the pain myself better than watching my loved one go through it.
Not having ever seen a back look like that, I wasn't sure that there was any form of stabilization that we could do that would give him any hope to salvaging any movement, but we had to try.
Good stabilization. Go ahead and move the KED into play.
It really gets you. There's just that knot in your throat because it's someone that you know and that you care about. There's a lot more pressure to keep your cool and do things right. Do them the way he taught you.
Okay, Johnny's coming to you. Nice and easy, guys. Got him? Got him. Leg.
He was starting to have some difficulty in breathing. It ran through my mind that we've got a person that's going into deep, irreversible shock. We didn't have a moment to lose.
I wanted to go with him really bad on the helicopter. I didn't want to be separated from him at that point. But there wasn't enough room and I couldn't. Dan and I have always been very close. I love him with all my heart. I wouldn't want to live if anything happened to him.
When I saw that helicopter lift off, the very first thought that came to my mind was a little silent prayer that this won't be the last time that I was ever going to see Dr. C.
Dan was taken to the emergency room of HCA Wesley Medical Center, the same place he worked, and put under the care of a team of people who'd known him for years, including trauma surgeon Paul Harrison.
He looked up at me and said, "Paul, I really screwed up this time." And that really floored me. I couldn't think of anything to say in response.
You hurt here, Dan?
When I first felt Dan's chest, it was like feeling a piece of packing material that crackled as you pushed and moved it. The ribs were broken in so many places that it had lost its structural integrity.
X-ray?
T10 and...
When I was able to see the x-rays of Dan's spine, there was so much displacement of one bone from another. I knew that he would never walk again.
Dan's son Scott and his daughter Stephanie rushed to the hospital as soon as they heard about the accident.
It was very scary to see my father like that because he's always taken care of me. And it's him laying there helpless and there's nothing I can do in the world to help him other than just be there and love him and pray for him.
Nobody knew at that time if he was going to live or die.
I love you. You want something to write with?
I told him that I loved him, and he motioned for something to write with. When he wrote, "I love you" on that pad of paper,
I love you too, Dad.
it put a lump in my throat and brought a tear or two to my eyes, because those words haven't been said between us in I don't know how long.
I know it's a tough call.
He said the nights were really long, and he was in a lot of pain. So his brother Richard and I would take shifts, so one of us would be up with him all night.
It's all of you, half of you, none of you.
Dan did not want to live in this condition. He and I spent, 90 gut-wrenching nights arguing over whether he should live or not live, and I just said, whatever it takes, I'm going to see that Dan makes it through this, and if it takes 3 days or 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 years or 30 years, I didn't care.
Okay, and push.
I didn't know whether I was ever going to be able to roll over in bed by myself or whether I'd ever be able to reach over and pick up something off the floor.
See if you can take one arm up and then try to bring the other one up a little bit.
It was very scary.
What you're starting to do is show some really good...
I can't imagine going through this without my family at my side.
Feel some tightness. When it feels tight, you can stop there.
A year has passed since the farming accident that changed Dan's life.
I was aware of the danger, and it could have been prevented. For probably 2 weeks after the accident, I really kicked myself for being so stupid.
If my mom wouldn't have been out there with him when it happened, he could have very easily died. It was a miracle that she was there. It saved his life.
The first few months after the injury, I was almost constantly aware of being paralyzed. Everything I did, I kind of thought, should a paraplegic do this, or should I say this if I'm a paraplegic? And I'm losing that. I think I'm a normal person, if I ever was normal, and there's some of my friends will argue about that, but I think I'm getting back to my usual self.
Okay. That's probably why you got a fever, got a red ear.
He was back to work in 3 months, which amazed everybody. The first patient he saw was a great dose of medicine for himself.
Hello. Jim, I'm Dr. Caliendo.
I've done a lot of things I didn't think I'd be able to do already.
Did the pain hit you?
We all have our limitations. I had them before my injury. I've got different ones and more now, but
Okay, Cody.
they're becoming fewer and fewer as time goes by.
Yeah.
I've always been very proud of my dad. Long before he had his accident, I've always thought he was pretty much one of the best guys there ever was.
Oh, could you get the lips?
But I find myself trying to spend more time with him than I did. You just kind of get reminded that, hey, he's not always going to be there, and you better make the most of the time you've got.
I don't know how to describe love. Don't know how to measure it. Her, Joe, and I've always been close, but we've just really bonded more than I thought was possible.
With the love that we have for each other, I think we're going to make it. And I'm looking forward to spending the rest of my life with him.
I'm glad you decided to stay here.